All right, so welcome everyone. This is our first ever FoodTech Monday. So in our series of FoodTech Mondays, we will be diving into the developments, exciting stuff, trends, and also the investments that are happening within the food tech sector across the globe. With me, Semi Hakim from Projekt. Today, Ivan with me today, Ivan Draganov from Dealroom. In our series, we'll be talking a lot about this and a lot of food tech and all of these exciting stuff, and we're going to dive into a lot of data on this. So without further ado, I would like to pass the mic to you, Ivan. Welcome, and I'm really looking forward to this series and with excitement. So welcome.
Oh yeah, pleasure being here, and I'm really excited about it as well. Let me just share my screen because I've prepared a couple of slides with some insights on online food and grocery delivery in Europe. And all right, so I'm gonna start here. Food is the second largest consumer spending category in Europe, and it accounts for 22% of the overall consumer budget. And we've seen that much bigger companies like Booking and Airbnb have been built in categories like travel, which account for far less, just 6%. So I think going forward, we would see much bigger companies emerge in food tech. And so far, we've seen that actually some of the largest companies within food and beverage are actually food delivery companies. However, putting that in context, we can see that the market opportunity for groceries is actually much bigger, or 10 times more. And although in 2020, food delivery has increased a lot, food delivery sales have increased a lot. They had a GMV of roughly 30 billion, of a little bit less than 30 billion. And looking at the overall grocery market, it's above $2 trillion US. And at the same time, penetration is really low across countries. More precisely, looking at the 5 biggest markets in Europe, we can see that online grocery sales actually remain at single or low double digits. Looking at the most valuable companies globally and their combined value, we can see that actually online food and grocery delivery companies are among the largest companies. And that actually Europe is within striking distance from the US. Looking at the overall tech ecosystem in the US, it's roughly 10x bigger. And food tech is of Europe is just 3x smaller, so it can easily catch up. And although Asia seems to be really in the lead, actually the value is concentrated in 2 companies, Pinduoduo and Meituan Dianping. And both of those do grocery delivery. Meituan is a little bit more diversified, and Pinduoduo is like a group shopping app for groceries. This investment in food delivery has actually accounted for 64% of the overall investments in Europe, or roughly 11 billion. And we could actually see that the blue chart actually really picked up in 2021, and that has to a great extent been driven by quick commerce companies like Getir and Gorillas. And Gorillas, by the way, is one of the fastest growing companies to reach to hit the $1 billion mark. And overall, grocery delivery startups are some of the fastest growing startups in Europe. And this chart was made for another presentation we did on Dealroom in Q1, and it ends at 2021. But if we were to update with more examples, the takeaway would still hold. Food delivery, grocery delivery companies among the fastest growing companies in Europe. Let me give you a quick overview of how we've segmented the market. So there are 2 broad categories, grocery delivery and food delivery. And within grocery delivery, we have online retailers. So those are companies like Ocado and Oda that operate their own facilities, and then they deliver to consumers. Usually that tends to be within a week. Then you have the quick commerce category, which are companies that also tend to operate dark stores, but those tend to be smaller and distributed across the city because they tend to deliver groceries within 10 to 15 minutes. And usually they tend to operate, then tend to hold less SKUs of each product, so that they can control inventory and deliver faster. And lastly, you have farm to table. So basically platforms that connect the user directly to the farmer, and either buying groceries and keeping them on their own balance sheet, or being a marketplace that connects the two parties, so they can make a transaction. On the food delivery side, on top we have the finished meal companies. So those are the companies that have been on the market already for quite some time, almost 10 years. Uber was founded in 2009, but actually they started food delivery 2015. Delivery Hero, Deliveroo and Takeaway are somewhat mature, but we've seen that those companies they started to expand into grocery delivery, and the reason is again what we mentioned earlier, that it's a much bigger market and the average order value is much higher. And then lastly, we have meal kits. So those are companies that would deliver ingredients, and consumers can make their own meals at home. And so let's look at investments. Online grocery retailers actually lead in terms of investment with a little bit more than 13 billion. Personal shoppers, here are the companies that like Deliveroo and Takeaway. We call them personal shoppers because in many cases they have a person who goes and picks up the groceries and delivers them to you, and that's different than the online grocery retailers like Ocado, who operate their own facility and hold the products on their balance sheet. And then we have quick commerce. And by the way, quick commerce is a category that emerged really in the last 2 years, and it has already attracted more than 2 billion in Europe alone. And then we have meal kits and farm to table have received come last with the list of investment. And by the way, those numbers are investments since 2016. We've seen actually that different players, as I mentioned earlier, are competing and trying to enter the quick commerce space, and mainly to appeal to the market and what consumers are looking for. I think it's a competition, especially in this space, would heat up. But overall, quick commerce is accounts for usually a small like usually those are type of items that you would need right away, and it's very specific, and usually is something you would buy from a 7-Eleven. So it's just a small percentage of the overall grocery budget of each consumer. Let's have a closer look at two players in grocery delivery. So Oda has proved that grocery delivery can be profitable, and Ocado is close to it. So first, looking at Oda on the right, they have been profitable in 2020. Again, that's an information we found from what the company has disclosed. And it controls around 70% of the Norwegian grocery ordering and delivery market. And what I thought is interesting is the quote below that the CEO gave. And basically here, it's the takeaway is that within grocery delivery, 62% of groceries are bought through discounters, 33% supermarkets, and 5 through 7-Elevens. So all the companies in the quick commerce are actually competing for just those 5%. So it's a much smaller segment. And although these are numbers for Norway, I would assume it's similar in other countries, meaning that Oda and online grocery retailers are competing in a much bigger market. And they're profitable. And also, then looking at Ocado, we've seen actually their stock price had a massive jump in Q2 of 2020, just because sales went up and everyone was sales shifted from offline brick and mortar retailers to online retailers like Ocado. However, they struggled to turn a profit in the first half of 2021. And we can see that they're having some trouble, and their stock price actually has been trending down. What combines those two companies, as I mentioned, is they have exceptional operational. They're very good at their operations, and I think in terms of how advanced their warehouses are, it's maybe level of Amazon, if not better, in terms of operations. And although the market conditions have been favorable, so a lot of consumers were buying online, we could see that within meal kits there have been winners and losers. So looking on the left, the German-based HelloFresh, their stock price, first it has gained a lot, but also that's reflected in the fundamentals. So the orders have increased 98% in 2020, revenue increased 107%. And what is even more interesting is that HelloFresh is actually more than half of their sales come from the US, which is the home market of Blue Apron. And Blue Apron is US-based meal kits delivery company, but they have been struggling to turn profit. And they IPO'd in their valuation at IPO was a little bit more than 3 billion, and now I think their market cap is below 100. So they have been really trending down. And although there was a small bump in 2020, as they thought, or as investors thought, oh, a lot of the sales are going to move online, maybe Blue Apron becomes gains market share, maybe it becomes profitable, they struggle to turn profit. And actually, customers and revenue numbers have been declining year on year. So if you're struggling to make profit and to grow your sales at the best of your times, then I think it might be actually difficult to do that going forward. Within grocery delivery, there are two main models we've seen in the market. So the first one, which is on the left, is basically partnerships, or I call it asset light, in the sense that you don't have to, as a company, as a delivery company, you don't necessarily need to invest in manufacturing, warehouses and other real estate, but you partner with someone. And also those partnerships enable brick and mortar stores to move online. So for example, Uber partnered with GoPuff. GoPuff is an online retailer based in US, but they also recently acquired the London-based Dia, so they're expanding into Europe. And Uber in their announcement basically said, we are really good at logistics and we want to focus on that. We don't want to be running a grocery business. So this partnership makes sense. Volt, on the other hand, is partnering. They have more than 1,000 partners across Europe, and more notable brands are like Carrefour and Spar. So basically, they're helping Carrefour and Spar move some of their sales online through another channel. And by the way, for Carrefour are also developing a lot buy and then collect from their store. So that's alternative to delivering. But they also partner with Volt, so they can also reach customers who are willing to receive the groceries at home. And also Glovo partnered with Stoneweg, which is a real estate company. And basically Stoneweg would invest 100 million to buy different properties and then turn them into dark stores. And then Glovo would be delivering from those dark stores. So basically they're sharing the risk, the real estate risk, and Glovo doesn't need to put the money from themselves. The alternative is you want to buy and operate the facilities, or that's a more capital intensive approach and also logistically complex. And those are companies like Getir Gorillas who operate their own dark stores to deliver groceries within 10 minutes. But you also have companies like Ocado and Picnic online grocery retailers. And also important to mention that virtual kitchens and dark stores also play an important role when it comes to food delivery. And there are three main categories. So you have virtual restaurants. So basically, those are companies that operate their own cloud kitchens and prepare the food there. They do not have a location on a where real estate is really expensive. They tend to take real estate in the suburbs and repurpose real estate assets and only have a website from which you can from where customers can buy. Second, you have the real estate partners. So that's those are companies similar to the partnership with Stonevec and in Glovo, in the sense that those are companies that repurpose the real estate assets and then can be rented to companies who can expand their capacity, or also restaurants. So if you have a traditional restaurant that has a strong brand and you want to increase the capacity for certain hours, and this is a really elegant and less capital intensive way to do so. Or if you want to move more of your sales online, because you already have a good and recognizable brand, you could then rent out cloud kitchens in locations across the city, or maybe in a new city if you want to enter a new city, so then you can more easily deliver. And then lastly, you have virtual franchises. So if you would like to run an online delivery business, those guys would come, inspect the kitchen, help you set it up, and then basically you're setting up a franchise just by owning a dark kitchen, and they do all the training, and then they build distribution through food delivery players like Glovo, Deliveroo, by Deliveroo, etc. Lastly, I think as a founder, one has to consider what is the market structure to understand what kind of business model to have and in which country. So you have countries like UK and France that have really strong supermarket brands, and also it's as I mentioned earlier with Carrefour in France, it's very popular to buy and collect. So then customers are used to that. It's convenient. That's how they prefer it. On the other hand, Germany, the German market is also really mature, and local competitors have been reluctant to expand their e-commerce operations, and especially discount retailers. And as we mentioned earlier, discount retailers make usually a large percentage of the overall grocery budget of each consumer. So if that big part of the market doesn't want to, or is less willing to move online, then it might create certain difficulties, or maybe consumers are far more not used to the idea of buying online, and they prefer shopping offline. And finally, Italy and Spain are really fragmented in terms of the competitive landscape, and we have local and foreign competitors in the market. And lastly, the labor cost. So one of the things that online delivery, grocery delivery in particular, is very difficult to turn profit is because of labor costs and the delivery. So in general, running a grocery store is a thin margin business, and when you add to that that you need people to pack the goods and then deliver them, it means basically that you're shifting some of the costs from the consumer to the retailer. So in markets where labor costs are high, it means you have to really automate, similar to what Oda did in Norway, Ocado in UK, which means it's capital intensive at first. But in markets where labor costs are lower relatively, this model might make sense. And for example, in India, the food delivery model makes sense, as labor costs are relatively lower. But similar in Europe, it's countries in the East and Russia. But the second big part of the equation is how often people order online, and we can see that the rates differ from one country to another. In the UK, 47% of the people order 6 times or more. So that's a market where people are really used to ordering online, and developing an online retailer might have some advantages. Whereas if we look at Italy, just 6% of the people order 6 times or more. This is based on data from the last quarter of 2020. Finally, I'd like to mention that Dealroom shares weekly insights on food delivery, and every Tuesday we send a newsletter. I'm the co-author of it, and we always feature nice companies, interviews, but also notable deals, notable exits, and many times we do deep dives into small niches. But also, if you're a founder or an investor who would like to get featured, get in touch so we can then speak. And finally, we have developed a FoodTech ecosystem in partnership with 5 Seasons Ventures, and we cover more than 6K FoodTech startups and scale-ups, but also investments, exits, unicorns, and all the data that was presented in this deck that comes from Dealroom could be found on this ecosystem. And this is basically the place to be if you want to stay on top of what's happening in FoodTech.
Awesome, Ivan. Thank you so much for this presentation. This is perfect. I think we're doing a great start for the whole series, and I just covers pretty much what we're going to focus on over the next couple of months and months on. And I wanted to actually ask you a quick question. You probably heard the as you mentioned, cloud kitchens are going to be a huge part of this ecosystem when we're talking about online delivery. And you heard probably the acquisition just happened this week by Reef, just acquired Econ, which is a cloud kitchen startup based in UAE, if I'm not mistaken. But it's also, what's interesting is that as such organizations, for example, like Mr. Beast, which is a YouTuber originally and built up a brand on content development last year, he actually did a project which was basically a burger brand. It became online more than 300 cloud kitchens in one day, and starting to serving their burgers across the country, US. They also extended that to UK, and they were also planning to do that in various occasions. The people who are listening to us, you maybe probably heard of him, which is the guy who's actually building a Squid Game game in some island somewhere. So he's quite aggressively content development. But that being said, content development, cloud kitchens, and online delivery is getting more and more close. So how do you envision, with the future of online delivery with all of these?
Yeah. Well, I think what is interesting is that the way I look at it is if you already have a large number of followers, and if you have a certain brand, you can easily create an online restaurant, and it's relatively cheaper to do that through cloud kitchens. So the same holds if you're a restaurant owner and if you have a well-known brand. As I mentioned, you can expand capacity by just partnering with dark kitchens for the fraction of the money that you would require otherwise. Speaking more broadly about what I find interesting would happen in the next couple of years is that first there will be consolidation, especially within grocery delivery, to make the unit economics more sustainable as companies consolidate and can. And by the way, the same happened in food delivery a couple of years ago. So we had the first wave of food delivery companies, a lot of smaller players popped up across Europe, across the globe, and then we've seen consolidation, which to a certain extent is still ongoing. But there would also be consolidation from in Europe from other players like GoPuff, as I mentioned, acquired the London-based Dia. So to expand to the European and in this particular case to the UK market, they are already established player and they acquire a quick commerce company to gain exposure to the European market. But I would also think that big food companies like Nestle, Unilever, etc., would also make investments in the grocery delivery space, and sometimes they might also acquire just a particular brand or a direct consumer company to just be closer to the end consumer, as they hope they can increase their margins, but also understand better the consumers what they buy and when they buy it, because if you shop online, everything is recorded. They can analyze what SKUs they might reduce from their food products and etc. And we've already seen that, for example, Nestle acquired Freshly for $1 billion last year. Nestle also acquired Home Chef, undisclosed amount last year as well. So they're betting on the meal and grocery delivery space. But also we might see new models where to basically make it work and perhaps increase the chance of becoming profitable sooner. For example, subscription. We've seen in France, there is a company, La Forge, it's a subscription service. So you pay basically, it's in a way similar to what Costco are doing. So you have a certain, you pay a certain amount to become a member, and then you can go and basically they also have less SKUs of each product, but also they know that they've already make a lot of recurring revenue through this membership. So we might see that some companies move to subscription-based business model. And I think, yeah, those are the things I find interesting.
Definitely. I mean, I think the whole experience of shopping is going to change, especially as our daily shopping as such groceries. And as you mentioned a lot with all of these technologies, for example, like the physical space cookies, quote unquote, and helping, consumers to understand what kind of products they might like. And if we add, personal nutrition startups into the picture with online delivery, and also the changing, the e-commerce and all that, sector is just starting to more get integrated. And I think one of the great things about this is that, and probably the most exciting side of it, is that the whole experience will be changing, because now we're talking about quick commerce, and I'm as you can look into the history, whenever we have something that is quick, we have something that is slow also comes along, and more diverse and more luxury focused, or different experience. So I think that's going to be quite interesting to see how this will impact overall the sector. And then because online delivery is here to stay, and definitely going to be a huge part of how we buy. And
another thing that we might actually see is now that you mentioned, people might be looking for a more high ends or lower ends type of food, and those are like, we might see actually the unbundling of the grocery store. Exactly. Because perhaps as a consumer, I would be willing to buy a certain brand of coffee from a direct consumer company that I know they have a mission that is close to my heart, but also the product is extremely well. I might then go to another brand to buy my bread because I know it's freshly baked and it's really high end, and I know of that. So it might be the case that instead of going to one place, one online retailer, I might go to several and maybe have a subscription, because many of them offer a subscription, for example, for receiving different type of coffee every month. And that's interesting. It keeps it's exciting, and also it's then better for the company because they know they have recurring revenue stream from you. So I might go from different brands to shop for different things. Again, this requires more time and effort, but it might be the case in certain markets for certain type of products. If I'm looking for something higher end, I prefer to spend the time and figure it out.
Definitely. For example, one of the oldest, business models when it comes to, restaurant reservation and all that, there's like hundreds of platforms that you leave comment on, you do reservations, etc. One of the startups, you probably remember the I think it was named Resty or Retsy something. So it's a New York based online reservation platform that became I think it was the old name was Open Table, and then they changed Resty something. One of the things that I learned was actually the Gary Vaynerchuk was actually one of the investors in this company, and it's also when you take a look to it how he invests and also the approach. Resty is quite specific approach on you do reservations to a specific restaurant. So reason why I'm saying this is that this is something that I think we're going to see, as you mentioned a lot as well, is that specialty products and specialized online delivery, and not just on time wise but on the product side, on the production side, etc. We're going to see more on this for sure, and that's definitely exciting. Awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, cool. I think we're off to a great start, man. So is there anything you would like to add before we close off? I'm gonna anything you would like to share regarding the Dealroom, foodtech.dealroom.co, or any other stuff that you would like to share?
Yeah, I already shared about the platform, but more generally, if somebody has questions about the presentation or has ideas how to collaborate, just reach out to LinkedIn, and I'm more than happy to collaborate.
Awesome. So as we mentioned, this is our series that we're kicking off today with Ivan, and we will be diving every second Monday of the month. This will be our Food Tech Mondays. So we're also, as Ivan mentioned, open to join in for collaboration or anything you would like to share during our time. Any comments that you can leave to our to the video on YouTube, or you can, as Ivan mentioned, you can reach us out to in LinkedIn, and any other stuff that you would like to share regarding the online delivery scene, anything you would like us to cover the next time that we're talking about, we're more than happy to look into it. So feel free to reach us out, and thank you so much for listening. And